Hey guys, this is Campy15 back at it with another video for you guys, and this is another Season 2 episode review of ReZero. And this episode was good. And that cliffhanger, man, that cliffhanger. This show, man, it's just a blast to watch this show. Not only blind, but it's a blast to just wait the next week to see what's happening next. Anyways, let's pick off from where we last left off. And where we last left off was Subaru was encountering Echidna. The witch agreed in the Windows XP background. You know, I've just been seeing people make fun of that freaking background, that setting, the Windows XP. So, anyways, we see Echidna just talking to Subaru is like, why don't you come up here? Why don't you, have a sip of tea, and stuff like that. And shockingly enough, Subaru just runs up there and he's like, fine, you want me to drink tea? You want me to drink tea? Not knowing what the hell's in the tea, he just straight up gulps it down like it's nothing. And even to the point, it's like, she's even like, oh, I'm shocked you even freaking drunk the tea to begin with. I thought most people wouldn't do that. And I'm like, same. Um, one, that's bad part on Subaru's awareness. I knew the moment he drunk that tea, I was like, oh god. I'm like, well, just prepare for something bad to happen to him now. I can see it now. Well, we later find out it kind of we later find out that the tea was actually good for him by the end of the episode, but I still have that sneaking suspicion that something bad's gonna happen to him after drinking the tea because I can't trust her. Anyways, she's just monologuing and stuff because Subaru kind of asks her like, "Why am I here? Can you send me back?" She's like, "Oh, I can send you back whenever I want to. I just want to talk to you and stuff like that." So far, she's like Echidna's being like carefree and nice and being respectful. Subaru's just kind of being pictured like, "Why you bring me here? Like, why?" Anyways, she's like, "Listen, don't you just want to talk to the Witch of Greed? I can tell you anything you want." You know, I can, which she is a witch agree, but she's talking about herself in the friggin' third person. She's like, I can tell you whatever you want to know. Any of your questions can be answered by the Witch of Greed. So, anyways, she does do that, and she's like, actually, let's change the landscape. So then it totally changes from the Windows EXP background into like this freaking spatial dimension area. And essentially, she just goes on a monologue talking about all the different witches. So I didn't exactly notify what each witch does, but I just got down there. I guess you could say, I guess, representation of sin or something like that. So we have the witch of gluttony, Daphne, the witch of lust, Carmilla, the witch of wrath, Minerva, the witch of sloth, Sekhmet. What I did like about the witch of sloth is I did like the fact that they had like a little eyeball, like a little purple eyeball showing, which kind of resembled Betelgeuse, which is kind of another throwback to him. It's kind of just like, I guess you can say, a little Easter egg type of thing they threw in there and be like, oh, you remember Betelgeuse? Then you have the Witch of Pride, Typhoon, and then she goes on to talk about herself. And when she brings up the Witch of Greed, Echidna, she's like, essentially, Echidna or her, she does anything within her power to just get knowledge, even if it transcends death, which is pretty freaking scary. Which means she's not a well, she's a bad person because that means, well, if she wants knowledge and she wants to know something, she's gonna do whatever she wants to in her power to obtain that knowledge, even if it has to go through someone dying to get it. And it goes to show that she really doesn't care. Um, even she mentions like she'll do anything for knowledge, even though she might regret it. And it's like, well, that means you have no sympathy whatsoever. She even goes in to talk about the Witch of Envy, and she says the Witch of Envy actually killed all the other witches, and stuff like that, and even killed herself. Um, Now, after this all happened, Subaru, he's obviously fucking freaked out. He's like, oh, what the heck? And then all of a sudden, the T Kenneth kicks in. I'm like, oh, shoot, here it comes. Is this going to be the first death of season two? But no, he's cool. And essentially, she goes on to mention about the witch's factor as the fact because or it's kind of like, well, going to the T thing, it's like, in essence, we find out later that essentially the T is like a body fluid of her. Like, I guess you can say it's him intaking her blood, essentially. So he's got like the witch's blood inside him, which I don't think is going to be good in the future. Anyways, it affects his body, and he's like, oh, it's starting to kick in, isn't it? So, it usually would have affected people earlier, but I guess it's a defense mechanism or something like that. So, yeah, she goes on to say that, and what I found interesting, I'm like, it's going to be a defense mechanism, so I'm like, oh, funny, interesting. We later find out why. I still don't trust it. I still don't trust it. Now, she goes on to the fact, like I mentioned, so it's like, you killed the Archbishop of the Slough, right? And stuff like that, and you didn't get rid of any of the other witches. Well, essentially, Subaru is no, the thing called the witches factor essentially chose Subaru as the new dwelling. So I guess replacing him in the place of the person, obviously Betelgeuse, who he killed. From what I'm getting from it, um, then Echidna kind of goes on to say like she's been in prison within the sanctuary, and the interesting part is he could die if he enters the sanctuary and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's almost like she's implying to break him out of this, I guess, imprisonment. So, yeah, and right before she leaves, no, Subaru's like, listen, I just need to go back. I need to go back, find Amelia and Otto and stuff like that. She's like, oh, really? It was just getting fun talking to you. And I found it hilarious because her character takes a whole different like she kind of goes over the ditzy type of girls like, why are you leaving? Don't you want to ask me anything else? And I'm like, I'm like, you could ask her everything. You could ask her whatever you want. It's like, could you ask her how to revive Ram? Or not Ram, Rem? Could you ask her to help out with Ram and all this stuff? Well, how to do this? It's like, if she's offering you to ask these questions, then I guess you might as well. But then again, I guess I don't blame him because he doesn't trust her. And I would be sus too. I'd be like, why should I even be talking to you? Anyways, before he leaves, she's like, "Fine, I'll let you leave." But before he super leaves, she says, "Look, don't tell anybody about our meeting whatsoever, and essentially, I'm gonna give you the right to take the trial at the sanctuary, which again ties in to what happened earlier, which I think happened with the T as well. It gave him, I guess, her body fluid or her blood essentially for Subaru to take it in. Here, it even confirms the fact that I give you the right to take the trial without getting hurt, which we later find out that's how it happened to Roswell. Now, after he goes back to the world to out of her little dimension or whatever, he comes out and then this dude attacks them, and we later come to find out that this is Garfield, and Garfield's about to literally probably kill them, and if it wasn't for Subaru talking about Frederica, he would have hurt them. Now, I'm guessing Garfield, he must be related to Frederica in some sort of way. He must be like her brother or something, because one, they have blonde hair, and two, they have the same sharp teeth. So, I find it interesting how Frederica tells, Subaru and Amelia, don't run into Garfield. Was that because, he's my brother and I don't like him? They have to be related some sort. Now they didn't confirm. Subaru didn't ask any questions like how do you know Frederica, or are you guys like related since you guys look so alike? I'm guessing they must be brother and sister. That's my only other reasoning. We may find that out later, but yeah, we'll see later. Anyways, he takes them to the sanctuary, and he goes on to the fact that you know, you pass, and when they finally get to the sanctuary area, he's like, you know, they ask the question like, why did obviously Amelia pass out, and the reason why Amelia passes out is Garfield kind of says like, well, the reason why you passed out is because you're of mixed blood, when people mix blood enter the pass the barrier into the sanctuary, they pass out for some sort of way. It's a way to, I guess, notify that they're able to take the trial or something like that. They eventually run into Ram, and obviously Roswell's being held in this little house area. Now, when Subaru sees Ram after a while, after they talk, he just gets these vast memories of Ram, and the reason why he thinks all of this, it's because it's one of the first times it's the first time he's seen Ram in a while, but to see Ram not really asking about Ram, which to him it's crazy and stuff like that. And Amelia kind of interrupts him before he is about to speak up about the Ram situation, but yeah, so it is interesting and stuff like that. Now we cut to the next scene where Roswell's in the little house and he is bandaged up. He is hurt and stuff like that. Now he goes on to say, because it really mentions like you call this a sanctuary, but this doesn't look exactly like how a sanctuary would look like. Like, you'd think a sanctuary would be like much more in better condition. It looked like, a holy place. But it doesn't, and that's even what I thought too. I'm like, this would look like kind of like some holy place. But no, it isn't. Roswell kind of says, well, this is the witch's graveyard. Um, and this was also the witch of greed's echidna's, you know, essentially her grave because she was killed by the witch of envy here. He says he looks over this area because it is run by the Mathers family, which is under him, essentially. Now, the family and Echidna, they were well, Amelia interprets it as a way of saying that they were acquaintances and they were acquainted with one another. So I guess they had like some kind of joint relationship going on and stuff like that. And then this is when we get into the reason explaining why the villagers and Roswell and Ram haven't came back to the village yet. The reason is because they're under house arrest in the sanctuary. Also, we also get more revelations of the fact that Roswell tried to do the trial, but he was rejected. Now the reason why is because Garfield comes in and he kind of says, "Well, you see, the thing is this: people of mixed blood. The moment you enter the barrier, you can't leave. You can't leave. Especially people with mixed blood. They can't go through the barrier and leave. Well, it was kind of confusing how they said it. It's like he goes on to say like people with mixed blood can't leave the barrier, but at the same time he's like telling Super is like, well, regardless, you can't leave either. So I'm like, why not just say anybody who enters the barrier can't leave? That would probably been a better explanation, but whatever. Um, he goes on to say like the only way you guys can escape and leave is if you clear the trial. And anybody who is not of mixed blood cannot take the trial, which ends up, hints at Roswell for getting hurt. And that's what happens to you. And it's implied that if you try when you get rejected by the trial, you get badly damaged and stuff like that. Um, so you can end up possibly in the same state as Roswell was, where he was, you know, in just bandages and stuff like that. So obviously, Subaru and Amelia know that they have to do the trial. Well, Amelia knows that she has to do the trial. So before they do anything, they run into the villagers. And the crazy thing is, which is crazy, is Garfield's like, well, you see, your villagers here have just been chilling. Honestly, to the point is like, why should we even have them here? It's like, listen, if they're gonna stay here long enough, we might as well eat them. Which is pretty freaking dark. So yeah. And I guess to Garfield's point, I guess he's not wrong. Like, why have these people here who don't live here, and they're just here because they're waiting for people to come get them? It's like if they're not gonna come, you might as well just kill them and just eat them or something like that. Anyways, Subaru goes to where the villagers are, and the villagers are like, "Oh, Subaru, are you gonna help us get out of this predicament?" And Subaru's like, "Well, I can't, but Amelia can." And um, essentially we get a pretty interesting dialogue with this old grandma, essentially telling Amelia like, "Listen, if you just want us to if you're gonna frickin' do this so you can back us." for your royal selection, okay, that's fine. But stuff like that. But the one thing is the she's shocked like why would you do something for us after all the time after the one time you tried to spend a day with us and we treated you like trash essentially or we just avoided you purposely. But then Amelia goes in and she kind of says, well, she essentially says the reason why I'm doing this is so hopefully we can all become friends and stuff like that, which is pretty nice and sweet of her. She wants to just be friends and be kind to the villagers and stuff like that, not being like an overruling, princess essentially that demands work of her villagers essentially. Um, and she's like, and then essentially the villagers are like, well, okay, then we put our trust in you. So they agree to, be your friend. And mostly the reason why Amelia they actually agreed to it is because Amelia's like, well, I just want to get you guys back to your families. Your families obviously miss you guys and they want you to be back with them. They want you to be back with them. And I'm gonna do this so you guys can be reunited with your families, which was a pretty good, conviction for the villagers to understand and be like, okay, she's not pulling our legs. She's actually like she actually does care about us and our families and stuff like that. So the villagers go trust Amelia. So, you know, eventually they all go now. Amelia, Subaru, Garfield, and Ram all go to the trial area, which is this little, you know, I guess you can say, I guess a sanctuary area, like just essentially a building. And Amelia, she goes in to take the trial. Now the ruins of the trial area starts to light up in a like blue color as she goes in. So sooner or later, a few minutes later, the light just goes out, and Garfield's like, "Huh, that's interesting. The light's supposed to stay on for the entire time you take the for the entire time, um, you know, the entire time you're taking the trial, which is interesting." So Subaru's like, "Well, shoot, she must be in frickin' trouble." So Subaru goes in there, frickin' guns blazing. Stupidly, I may ask you. And Garfield and Ram's like, What the hell are you doing? You can't go up in there." And next thing you know, the trial lights up for Subaru because, as we all remember, Subaru drank the tea as well as Echidna gave him the right to take the trial. Um, he's able to take the trial alongside Amelia, and that's what surprises Garfield and Ram. They're like, "What?" They're like, "Subaru, how are you able to do it?" And Subaru's kind of like, "I'll just tell you guys later." He's just like, "Don't worry about it. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna help Amelia complete the trial." So he goes into the trial area, and the trial area is all lit up blue, and it's like looks like this crystal area. He goes past this door, and he sees a passed out Amelia on the floor just laying down. And the moment he walks in closer, he passes out. And then you see this text of dialogue in the subtitle saying like, "Well, it's time to relive your past" or something like that. It's something to do with reliving your past. And the moment he reawakens, he's in his bed. Now, at first, I thought, like, is he in his bed way back in the mansion at the start of the series or something like that? Where he's like, we obviously, see Ram and Ram well, he sees Ram and Ram for the first time. But no, we going back way, way to the beginning. And we go essentially to him in the real world on planet Earth, not in the fantasy world, in the real world. And we see his dad come in and jump on him, and he is just shocked for words, and that's when the episode ends off. So we're on a cliffhanger of the fact that Subaru is in the real world. He's back home, and I think this is what we saw in the opening. In terms of, I'm guessing this is what we got, what we saw as a foreshadowing thing in the opening. The fact that he's going to have to relive his past to maybe even pass this trial. Now, I don't know what the heck's gonna be going on. I don't know if Amelia's gonna be accompanying him and he's gonna find Amelia in the real world and they have to, I guess, work together in this real world sense. Because if that's the case, that's pretty cool. Because if he's here, it will only make sense Amelia's there, but she must be somewhere else. And I'm guessing him and Amelia are gonna relive everything that Subaru's been through, I guess. Now Subaru's gonna probably retake in this thing, which is gonna add to his freaking pain and suffering. But I think Amelia's gonna see what he's really been going through, and I think maybe she'll understand, have a more understanding of like, so this is what happened. This is what you weren't telling me, weren't you? And Subaru could be like, yeah, that's what I was telling you, but I couldn't tell you because reasons. So yeah. Um, so it seems like next week is gonna be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. We're already on episode 4, bro. We're already on episode 4, and we're only gonna get like 12. I think we're only gonna get like 13 episodes this first core of the season, and then they're gonna go on break till next year, which sucks. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where this goes. I have no clue where this could be going. The only other thing is now is I could see, him meeting up with Amelia in there, and Amelia question like, "How are you here?" And he could be like, "Well, I'm taking the trial alongside you," and stuff like that. As well as, I guess another thing is, like I said earlier, I'm like, I don't trust that Echidna person. She seemed like she was carefree, and she gave the impression like you could trust her, but then again, you know, Roswell even mentioned like if you say like the witch agreed, it makes her sound evil. Even she mentions like, oh, me, I'm a very, very evil person if I want to get to that point. I'm like, yeah, you're not somebody to be trusted. Um, she also looked like she tried to seduce Subaru as well too. I don't know if you guys got that impression. She gave me that impression too because she's like, because she even says like most people don't even see me cute. Right? Most people are not usually talking to me because they think I'm disgusting and stuff like that. And even Subaru's like, well, I don't think you're all that bad, looking and stuff like that, which is I guess is what turned her on to him. But then again, you can't trust her. And like I said, him drinking the tea, I think that's gonna come back to bite him. That's definitely gonna come back to bite him because essentially her body fluid or her blood essentially is within him. And I feel like she can manipulate him. So it's gonna be interesting to see where this goes. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if Echidna's gonna make reappearances, which I feel like she is. I don't know. I just don't trust this Echidna character. As well as it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. I wonder if any of the other witches are gonna make any appearances in any of the season. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where this is gonna be headed. So next week, it seems like Subaru is gonna be reliving the world, and maybe he'll see how he died, or maybe he'll relive how he died in the real world before being. I don't know, or maybe reveal. Maybe we'll get the revelations of what happened of how he was transported to the fantasy world where Amelia and the others are at. So that's the next week's episode might answer a lot of questions for anime only people in terms of how did he even get here to the fantasy world to begin with. So yeah, so other than that, guys, that's all I gotta say for this episode. This episode was good this week, and I'm looking forward to next week. So till then, guys, if you like this video, leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts about this episode, as well as hit that subscribe button to get more ReZero Season 2 content. So till then, guys, I'm going to get out of here, and I'll catch you guys next week for the next ReZero episode review. So till then, guys, hopefully you guys are staying safe out there. Peace.